Hey guys, how's it going? This is mcpe, and today we're going to be building something a little bit complicated. It is a fully automatic, I should say, shulker unloading system. So what does it do? Well, quite simply, if we had some shulkers, and all we want to do is now jump back to the chest over here, chuck them all in. So what happens is that all the items actually get pulled out of the shulker boxes automatically, and once it's actually completely empty, it gets dispersed into the system. And then from there, what will actually happen is that the next one's automatically loaded. So it's a full automatic system. There's no having to press buttons or anything like that. It does it all for you, all completely simple, and a god-awful mess. And of course, as you can probably tell, we're in my underwater item sorting system, so it works perfectly fine with anything that's underwater. So let's grab some hoppers, because we want to make this one a little bit higher than the previous one. And I'm just going to make it probably about 3, maybe 4 high, something like that. That should be fine. So if we come back over here, what we're going to do to start off with is just actually put a glass block above where that is. Now I need to put in my dispenser, so that will be there. And then we're just going to surround this with some glass blocks a little bit like that. So we've got something completely enclosed. And then we're just going to actually remove that, so we've got that in place. There's no block in the middle, there's no water in the middle, and it's surrounded by glass. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to go up one like this, and then we're just going to chuck in a piston a little bit like this, so that now we have a piston that's pushing that top glass block that was here straight into the actual configuration. And I should probably mention that you need to make this actually a sticky piston, because we're going to have to recoil it all the time. So it needs to be like that. And as you can see, they've got that glass block and it just gets actuated a little bit like that. Easy enough. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to chuck a redstone block here, and then we're going to grab either honey or slime. It's up to you, you don't have to use any one in particular. And we're just going to chuck 4 over like that. You want to grab a hopper and you want to chuck it right here facing towards the dispenser. So this is going to be where our chest goes. So we can easily just grab a chest, chuck it on a little bit like that. And now that's basically how we put items into it. So anytime that we want to put shulkers in, we just put it into this one chest. The next thing that we need to do from there is I'm going to use wool so that you can easily see different colors. And for this one, I'm just going to use blue, and we're just going to chuck it right there. So we want to actually put a block underneath this one here. Then what we're going to do is grab a comparator. We don't need to worry about subtract mode or anything like that. Just going to delete that block and chuck in your comparator. And then what we're going to do from there is grab a little bit more glass. Make sure you're crouched when you're trying to place it onto the dispenser, otherwise it won't place it. Then we're just going to chuck a block right in front of it here. Now we need to join these two together, so all that we're doing with that is we're going to be doing a little bit of building kind of like that, because we're building underwater, we can't just run redstone dust. Now we're going to grab some repeaters, because they will be able to be placed underwater in bedrock, so we don't need that anymore. And we just want to chuck one here, 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 and then here. Now, what this is actually doing is it's simply just sensing whenever we have a shulker box in this one square block here, once the glass block's out of the way, it will automatically detect if there's items still in it. And if there is, it will just send a signal over here, this block over here. Now, this block here will then get powered. And once it's powered, it will stop this hopper from being able to accept items. Now, why we're doing that is simply so that we can manage one shulker box at a time. That's just weird. Has anyone else noticed the fish that's just spinning around there constantly? Okay, don't get distracted. Here we go. Now, the next thing that we're going to do from there is we're just going to put that block away, and I'm just going to grab a different color just so it's easy enough for you guys to understand. And then what we're going to do is chuck in something a little bit like that. Now we just want to put a comparator there. So if you can just slip it between the chest and the blocks. It's a little bit harder in console. You might need to delete the chest and then put it back, but that's perfectly fine. It's not a problem. So what we'll do from here is we're going to place things a little bit like this. So you can see the same sort of setup exists where we're going to be putting actually I think I used a comparator on this one. Doesn't really matter too much, doesn't really make it any better or worse. And that's what we're going to be doing here. So what this circuit does, or part of the circuit I should say, is that it's going to be sensing whenever something's in the dispenser, and then it's going to be also making sure that this block is also locked off. So we're really trying to make it limited to how many blocks can ever be inside the hopper at any one point, and therefore it limits the blocks that it can be in the dispenser at any one point. This is one of the big main keys to this sort of a design, is that we really need to make sure that we don't have too many shulkers at any one point, because we're using whatever items are in this dispenser here to be able to actually fire the system. So it doesn't work too well if we actually have too many items in here, because then it won't actually be able to dispense multiple shulkers and things like that. It will make sense in the long run, don't worry. Okay, so the next thing that we're doing from here is we're just going to make a circuit that's able to place and remove shulker boxes. So what we're going to do is we're going to chuck a block directly underneath this one here, and then we're going to get a sticky piston, chuck it in like that so it's facing upwards. Then what we'll need to do from here is, again, we're going to destroy part of this, but that's perfectly okay. And we're going to chuck in, you don't need to use glass blocks for this, but I'm using it just so that you can sort of tell what's going on. And we're going to put a comparator in here. So that's fairly sort of simple, not too bad. And then a glass block on top. Then from there, all we're going to do is chuck a block in here and put another one there with a repeater on top. So what is this doing? So this is basically just sensing any time that there's a shulker box in the system here. And if it has items in the shulker, what that's going to do is it's going to extend this to keep it open. So when this is staying open, what's happening is that it's allowing for this piston to be up here, and it won't dispense another item until it comes back down. This is part of how it's all sort of running here. Now, the next big important thing is that we're going to put a piston just on top of this one. So this is what's going to actually fire the shulker system. So we can remove that block now. So anytime that this goes up, this piston here will actually push down this redstone block here, which is going to fire the dispenser. And at the same point, it's going to remove this piston, which will allow for a gap in the firing area here. So it's fairly sort of simple so far. Nothing too crazy. As long as you're sort of following along, it should be pretty fine. Now, what we need to also do is we need to grab another color here. And I'll choose orange for this one. I don't think I've used orange at all. Now, this is where it does get a little bit complicated, where a lot of builds for these kind of systems also go a bit awry as well. So this system, what it does is it's actually going to be allowing us to sense when items are actually in here. So this will be the initial firing of, say for instance, you drop a shulker box into your chest, then it will go through the hopper and into the dispenser. And this senses when there's an item in the dispenser, but at the same time you need to also make sure that because there's going to be another item that's going to replace the previous one, we need to also make sure that it doesn't stay on. So what we'll do is put a comparator like that, then a repeater, and we'll set that to 4 ticks. Put another repeater, set that to 4 ticks. I'm going to say it every single time just so that you guys know exactly that all of them need to be set to 4 ticks. Again, another repeater set to 4 ticks, and another repeater set to 4 ticks. So this basically allows for the dropper to fire by also removing the piston, but at the same point we don't want this to stay on, so this will come around here and then it will turn it off so that it can't remain on. Now, here comes the last and not the most important part, is just that we want some sort of item holding system just so that we can hold any of the shulkers. Now, this system, you can see that once it dispenses all the items in here, it's going to flow all the way around, a little bit like that, and then it's going to eventually come back and around here. And we also need to keep in mind that the shulker boxes are going to be dispensed into this hopper line as well. So that's what this is mainly doing, is just picking up any random items and also the shulker boxes. So let's give this a little bit of a test run, make sure that it's all working. So the best way to test these is that you want to have a couple shulkers, a little bit like this, and we're going to have nothing in some of these shulker boxes. Oh, they just disappeared. Great. That's nice and handy. Ah, no, here they are. So some of these shulker boxes will have absolutely nothing. Other ones we're just going to have items in them that we use in our sorter. So something a little bit like this. Not too complicated. Also, before I just do it, I need to remove that because this is my old shulker storage system that had the problem where it was built exactly on it. So we're just going to go into here now, chuck maybe some items into these different ones here. Doesn't have to be too exact, we're just mainly making sure that there's no sort of problems with how this whole system's running, and this shouldn't really have any sort of issues. And I'll chuck those in there. That should be about right. If you're in creative mode, you've got to break this with a pickaxe, otherwise it will just disappear. So let's now give this a whirl, give this a try, and chuck a whole bunch. Whoop, that's not it. And here we go. So what should occur is that it's currently sensing, as I mentioned before, that there's items in here, and it's allowing it to maintain open without destroying it. So once this runs out of items, what will happen is that this will depower, this will pull down the piston, which will then fire this system that pushes down the block to get rid of the previous shulker, and at the same time it will also fire a new shulker when it comes back up. So all relatively simple, relatively easy. It looks complicated from the offset, so it doesn't look like it's a very simple system. Most things are in Minecraft. You just got to be sort of mindful of exactly how many ticks things have. The only thing that has any sort of strange ticking or any sort of strange settings is these ones here. They all are set to 4 ticks, and this one is in subtract mode. So subtract mode is where that little torch that I'm highlighting is currently actually highlighted. And we'll just watch it for a little bit, make sure that everything's running properly. It shouldn't really go too wrong at all. We've got, hang on, where's everything gone? Okay, it's all done. All done. Well, that was quick. Okay, so I was wondering why that stopped firing. That was definitely a bit sort of quicker than I thought. So what should happen is that eventually all the shulkers come in here, plus any sort of items that can't be sorted. If you like this video, drop a like, subscribe, hit the button, ring the bell, touch people slightly inappropriately in public, and I'll see you guys in the next one.